The town of Berlin. Country charm at the center of Connecticut.
So it's time. So we'll call this meeting to order, please, and we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Jallo Christensen. Here. Mayor Kaczynski.
Here.
Councilor Luddy. Councilor Payanessa.
Here.
Councilor Rosso.
Here.
Councilor Uranaga.
Here.
Councilor Veach. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now we come to our audience of citizens. If anyone in the audience wishes to speak to us about anything, within reason, we're here. Yes, sir. We're here for you. Always the same.
John O'Brien, 12 Vineyard. I want to wish the council and everybody a happy new year. I believe it's going to be a good year for the town of Berlin. And I heard a rumor, and I hope it's true, that the mayor's going to look into the replacement of the police department, the locker room upgrade, and also Joanne Stetson. I was with Joanne when we took a tour through the police department, the exercise room. If you could take a look at that, maybe actually Doug Solik probably could take a look at it. It needs new ceiling panels. The walls have water stains, should be repainted. Right now it's unusable. But if they could take a look at basically their exercise room that the union did buy all the equipment and everything, it would be much appreciated by our police department. And another thing, I want to thank you for the town garage, our highway department, or the wash bay. That was much needed. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to address the council at this point? No, seeing no other hands, so we'll go ahead and close the audience of citizens and move on to our meeting agenda. Just on that note about projects, so I think we all are aware of at least I'll tell you what I think the priorities are. One of the number one priorities is the senior housing project, which we've been working on now desperately to get that moving and find the financing for that. That's very important to the town. The second one, I don't know if they're 1, 2, 3, but they're all as important, is the police department is another one, and we have some meetings scheduled for that, and we're working on public building has some information. They've done some studies on that, so that's part of it. We're working on that to most likely renovate downstairs or whatever we decide as we go through this process. And then there's the senior community center, which is also moving forward. And so we have plenty of stuff on our plate, plenty of projects for the town of Berlin. Looking for that wealthy benefactor that will write checks for all three of them, which would be a lot easier. But notwithstanding that, we will work on moving those forward. So those are the three things I think we all are interested in focusing on. They've all three of those have waited a very long time, over the years. So those are things we are certainly actively pursuing this coming year. So anyway, with that said, we got our meeting agenda, and we'll start with our consent agenda. We have, what do we got? 5 items on there. We've all read this ahead of time. We generally will take one motion. We have request of some fees being waived, a couple different items, the wrestling club, congregational church, some donations, the police department, 2 for the police department. And on the fees that we're waiving, I know we try and keep, just so we have, right, we came up with an informal, I forget what the amount was. Remember, Kate, we came up with an amount, remember we looked at, it was like a tally, and there was an amount every year. We were just trying to keep in a certain range. I don't remember. I want to say it was 50,000 off the top of my head. It was in that range somewhere, but
I don't know if you ever actually
Tallied it?
a figure.
Yeah, okay.
I think the idea was to be as
Cognizant of what,
yeah, continent of what was going
Yeah.
on. Make sure it was town related.
Right.
You know, businesses and activities in town. And
Right.
I think especially with, from what I'm seeing with the golf course commission, they're trying very hard to make sure they're, when they're doing any donations, it really is for town
yeah, right.
groups. And then once a month, you should be getting that notice about what is being, the ongoing tally. Have you been
Okay,
getting that?
so could,
We can make sure you get it for the next meeting.
maybe put it in our
Right.
packet
Okay.
every, once a month. I don't,
month,
maybe
yeah.
not every
We
meeting,
can
but
do that, that's easy.
just so we tally it up and see what, because, I mean, we certainly vote on them, but we, you know, you go.
You don't know the final
No,
figure.
we don't know the final figures, and, you know, months down the road, we.
Do we want
forget.
to split it up between police and golf course, or just the total?
I mean, with the total, at least we'll know too where it's going, right? You're gonna have the individual, you know, because I know some are church events.
Some
some-
Sure,
Some are nonprofits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I know Hungerford has utilized this
Yes,
program as well.
it's all different
Yeah.
groups
It's
in
different
town.
groups, so I don't think just two groups.
Yeah, why don't you see it?
Yeah.
And then if you want it broken down in different columns, we can do that,
Sure.
okay?
Yeah, it's just so we keep a tally, and
Definitely.
I mean, because we certainly want to help out all the community events, all the different organizations, but we just need to pay attention to that, as any good budgeter would. So, with that in mind, so we have our consent agenda. We'll go ahead and take a motion on those 5 items.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. Second on that?
Second that?
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you. On to our new business. So, the first new business, near and dear to our hearts, our town manager's heart, is our employment agreement between the town of Berlin, Roche. We had reviewed this, we've talked about it in executive sessions, and I assume you've all reviewed it, correct?
Yep.
And so what do we think? We have any comments, questions? Is everybody on the council?
You ready to take that plunge?
Yeah.
Yeah, Roche, are you really ready?
Don't hold it against us.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're not forcing you into this or anything, right?
Twist in the arm.
We didn't make it too attractive to make you have to stay or anything. We can change it and make you leave if you want. And Attorney D'Onofrio, you've reviewed it as well?
Wrote it.
Yes, I know that, but
I did review it after I wrote it.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay, well, if we have no comments, and we all have obviously looked at it, talked about it in executive session and with the interim town manager as with Attorney D'Onofrio, so we're all in favor here. Obviously, we'll take a motion, and then we can execute that agreement. And Roche, you know, we didn't vote yet, but I think I know how the vote will go. But we're happy to have you. We appreciate all your time as the interim, and we look forward to you as our manager. So we'll go ahead and take a motion.
It's my privilege to make a motion to approve the employment agreement between the town of Berlin and Arosh J. Wikarima as town manager, and further move that Mayor Mark Krasinski be authorized to execute the employment agreement on behalf of the town of Berlin.
Great, thank you.
Second.
Second on that, thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Hey, congratulations. Very good.
Thank you very much.
All right,
All right.
very good, excellent. So on to,
The second item on the agenda is the presentation from the Central Connecticut Health District
Charles.
Annual Report. Charles
Great.
Brown.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Evening. So we're back again.
Yes.
Congratulations, Raresh.
Thank you very much.
They told me that they wanted to make sure that you were all contract, everything was good before we started our presentation, so that you were official and you couldn't run anywhere.
I'm
It's
here.
not going to be that bad, trust me. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Charles Brown. I'm the Health Director for the Central Connecticut Health District. With me today is Dr. Pat Checco, who is our board chairman. So we also have some other folks that I'll introduce here in a minute. Some general information about CCHD. We're the local health departments for the towns of Berlin, Newington, Rocky Hill, and Weathersfield. We serve a combined population of about 97,000 people. We were founded in 1996, about 24 years ago, and our staff, as you see there, has been providing a broad range of services to all of our member towns. We're one of 20 regional local health departments in the state of Connecticut. And you can see it right in the middle of the map, there's a number 2, and that's us, all 4 of our towns. Local health at a regional level has really taken on the responsibilities for economies of scale. We actually provide services to our 4 towns that they could not really do individually without a much higher expense. Yes, as you can see, there's a lot of blue on that map, and that map, the blue represents health districts, the yellow is full-time health departments, and the white are part-time health departments. Okay. So general information again, we just moved, actually just celebrated our first year anniversary in our new offices in 2080 South Dean Highway over in Rocky Hill. Very happy in our new offices, and for those of you, we have not had one complaint from citizens, from the town, have not heard any bad things at all with respect to our offices and being over there. So we've been very happy with it and are happy to provide services from there. We have 11 employees, 9 full-time, 2 part-time, very active and volunteers and lay volunteers that help us do things like our flu clinics. We do have oversight from a 14-member board of health, and our board members, you have 3 of the board members from Berlin. Our chairperson, Dr. Checco. Pat is actually from Berlin as well, former health director, and worked at the state health department. You have Ray Jarima, who's here today. Ray, would you please stand up?
Ray, who?
Yeah, exactly. You guys might know him. So Ray actually serves on our Human Resources Committee. So he does help us out with personnel issues and things of that nature, policies and that we have going on. Who's not here today, and somebody probably well known to you as well, Lisa Panessa, who unfortunately had another meeting that she had to cover today, but she serves on our governance committee for oversight for that. Now to the bottom line. The last audit that we had, we actually looked at the revenues, and we came in a little bit over $1 million, 1.17 million. Most of that, or a large part of that, is from town contributions. So we get about $583,000 from towns, from each one of our towns, at $6.25 per person per year, which is a pretty good deal when you're considering taking care of the public health for an entire year. We also bring in program revenue at about $266,000 last year. That's our fees that we charge for food inspections, septic inspections, motels, salons, things of that nature. We also get grants, bioterrorism from the federal government, and state per capita funds that we actually receive to about the tune of about $319,000, in addition to about $4,000 of some interest income. Now the expenditures are on the good side because they're a little less than what we actually brought in revenues, which is always good. You want to be in the black. Roche can explain that, I'm sure. So most of our expenses, because we don't make widgets, really go to the salaries and benefits of our professional staff. We do have some money that goes out for professional and contracts, and our program operating expenses have been about $184,000 over last year, with other expenses totaling about $24,000. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between healthcare and public health, because a lot of times, sometimes people get that mixed up in their head. So healthcare, their focus is on the individual, where we as public health look at the population as a whole as our patient. Where healthcare would have intervention, where they would diagnose and treat what was wrong with the individual. Excuse me. We use tools like assessment, policy development, and assurance of those policies. to assure that the public stays healthy. Process-wise, doctors look at the management of patient care, where we look more in a systems level for environment and human behavior as how we manage the systems as a whole. The outcome for an individual when they get sick really is to return that individual to health. Where public health is a little different. We look to keep the community healthy throughout, and that's our charge. So we'll talk a little bit about the purpose of a public health agency, and I'll get into some detail with these things. We look at protecting environmental hazards, preventing injuries, promoting and encouraging healthy behaviors, how we respond to disasters, and assure the quality of health services, and ultimately to prevent epidemics and the spread of disease. And I wish we could buy an ounce of prevention at the prescription, at the pharmacy. It would make my job a lot easier. So one of the main things that we've been doing over the last year, a couple of years actually, has been working on the opioid crisis. CCHD has really been the convener of local response agencies in our towns. And when I say response agencies, I mean beyond emergency medical services that you would think for an overdose. We've been working with police departments, social services, medical services, a wide array of people throughout our communities to address this issue. And we currently have work groups that are addressing prevention, response, and recovery. We did last year get a 2-year grant from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services to work with people suffering from addiction. We've hired a recovery coach, brought our health educator up to full-time, and really have a lot of tools now at our disposal to help our citizens as they're dealing with this crisis. One of the things you'll see on the slide there is a map at the bottom. Now that map is one of the tools that we can actually use. It actually pinpoints where overdoses have occurred so that we can target our efforts in prevention and recovery right down to the street level. So a lot of these tools are really helping us and assisting us to be able to serve our communities in this crisis. One of the main things that's foundational for public health that we do is a lot of inspection services. So our environmental health staff are really out there every day. They're working doing food service inspections, temporary events, septics, pools, motels, a lot of salons, especially here in Berlin as well. Last year in Berlin, we did about 232 food inspections in Berlin alone, and over 400 inspections total within the town of Berlin. Other things that deal with environmental health are a lot of complaints. We got almost 200 complaints last year. The majority of those really dealt with housing, property maintenance, hoarding complaints, some food, some rodents and insects, and then other things that we have to deal with on a regular basis. And these things can be rather complicated. Our folks are really trained to be able to go out there, work with the individuals, work with property owners to really resolve these issues. Other things that we do to protect against environmental hazards, we have our Putting on Airs program. This is an asthma home visit program where asthma patients actually get referred to us. We send out a team of environmental professionals plus an asthma health educator to really look at the home, see what the triggers potentially could be and eliminate those, and then work with the patient so that they can understand how to manage their own condition. We've been doing this for about 6-7 years now, and it's really been a very, very helpful program for a lot of families in our group.
Is there a fee for that?
What's that?
For that?
No, it's covered under the grant. So we actually are able to go out and do 3 visits per referral, work them all the way through this system. So it's been very useful. Now, how many people knew that January is Radon Awareness Month? Come on, raise your hands. You knew this. Ray did. So we actually have a pretty good deal going on right now. We have a limited number of free, I say that again, free radon test kits in our offices. So if you haven't tested your home for radon, or if you need to test your home for radon, you can actually come down, sign for one, and then go ahead and test your home for radon. Radon is one of those silent killers that really affects lung cancer, and it is preventable. So the first step in preventing it is to actually test for it to find out if you have a problem with radon. Lead poisoning prevention is another thing that we deal with in the environment, and it's not just the lead paint that you see scraped off or flaking that we would see in old housing stock. We have seen over the past several years a lot of lead poisoning coming from spices from overseas, makeup, even pressure cookers and the seal for pressure cookers having lead in them. So it's a lot of places where you don't expect. Our folks and our inspectors are actually trained to follow up and do epidemiological investigations to determine what the source of that lead poisoning is and to help eliminate that from the residents. Yeah, sometimes. Knock on wood. Promoting and encouraging healthy behaviors. So for the, God, I think it's 5th time since I've been here. Berlin won the overall walking competition. We have a 4-town walking competition that we do every year. Berlin has won it every single time. You guys are awesome that way.
You've got a big target on your back.
We're not happy last year when we won it for that 4th time.
Well, let me tell you, we presented in Weathersfield last night, and there was a visible reaction when we brought that forward. So I will say that the other town managers and other mayors are definitely looking to take that trophy home next year.
Look forward to the competition.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. The basis for this is really to get people up there and moving. Walking is one of the things that we hopefully can all enjoy, and it really doesn't take a lot of equipment, but it really can help us be healthier as individuals and as communities.
You were going to mention what's coming up with.
Oh yes, the other thing. Thank you for the reminder, Pat. One other thing that we have going on, and you got to stay in tune to our website and our Facebook. We're doing a February fitness challenge that's in conjunction with our walking competition. So we're going to be actually getting information on that in hopefully next week. But it's going to be here the last 2 weeks of February, and it's going to be things that individuals can do inside their homes to kind of prime them for that April competition, to make sure that we're not all just sitting there around the fire. Okay? As I mentioned, we do plan to respond to disasters. We do a lot of emergency preparedness planning. We have an emergency preparedness coordinator who actually works with each one of our towns to make sure that our plans integrate with your emergency operation plans. We do flu clinics every year in October, and we actually do those for 2 reasons. One, to make sure that people have the opportunity to be immunized against flu. But the second reason is to make sure that we can actually test our plans every year. We've got it down to a science, and we train our staff to the point to where we pretty close when we get people walking in the door, 3 minutes from door to door if they have their paperwork filled out. And that's pretty quick. CVS and Walgreens can't touch us. So other things that we do, we don't just do flu. We look at flooding and other natural disasters and what the public health response should be for those as well. One of the things that we do, especially around this time of year, is senior dental screenings, and we do that to assure accessible health services. So we actually have a grant from the North Central Area Agency on Aging, I got it right that time, Pat, to be able to actually provide free oral health screenings for seniors in all 4 of our towns. So we provide these screenings free of charge. A dental hygienist will take and look at them. Last year we actually saw 107 clients. So it's really important as we age that we take care of our oral health, because as that starts to decline, we see the decline in overall health as a whole. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Pat Chefko.
Thank you, Charlie, and Happy New Year to everyone, and congratulations to the new town manager. There was a reason why Charlie did that on 78 RPM, and that is to give me a little time to talk about 2 things that we felt we needed to say more about this year. And so I'm going to pick up here. Preventing epidemics and the spread of a disease. Again, we talked about influenza. We this year bought 2,400 doses and ran out. And we had a lot of upset citizens, but that's the way it was. And it's good because it's obvious that people are beginning to realize the importance of that particular immunization. We also obviously do disease follow-up for all of those many reportable diseases, and there's probably over 100 in the state of Connecticut. There's some that you're familiar with: hepatitis A, B, and C, our good friend salmonella. He talked about lead poisoning in children a little bit. Our vaccine preventable diseases, I'm going to talk more about our own experience soon. And of course, Legionella, for those of us who are old enough to remember Philadelphia and those very venerable Legionnaires who brought that to us several years ago. We'd like to take a little bit of time today to talk about the issues of vector-borne diseases for two reasons. One, because we really want to talk about Eastern equine encephalitis. It happened this year, and it caused a great deal of consternation all over the state. We have one colleague, director of health, who was out in California when she received a call at 3 a.m. from her mayor wanting to know if they should postpone the football game. So let's talk a little bit about these diseases. Primarily, we're talking about mosquito and tick-borne diseases. EEE, West Nile virus, we have come to know and not love, but the years of the crows dying in our yards and people running in with their crows are over. And then, of course, we have Zika, which is not here yet, but we do certainly have people who have it. So we have actually been following EEE in the state of Connecticut for over 50 years. Most people don't realize that. We have had flocks of sentinel pheasants up in the boonies. For those of you who hunt, they happen to be extremely sensitive to that organism and will die off. We also have cases of Eastern equine encephalitis in our horse population every year that most people are not aware of. So for many years, we have marshland in the southeast part of the state that borders on a place in Massachusetts that has endemically had EEE for many years, which was one of the reasons why we've always followed it. And this year, it happened that we actually had a couple of cases and unfortunately a death. And just as with Ebola, that was in another continent, people were afraid. And here, because it was within our own state, people were very afraid. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and let you know that it would not surprise any of us to see an increase in our surveillance of mosquitoes in the state, to begin to watch and see if it starts to move. So we will probably have more trapping stations around the state. They may be moving them further north. And so people shouldn't be frightened that that means they're here. It means that we're looking and that we will definitely be much more aware of the potential. And part of why I wanted to talk about these particular diseases today was because there are climate change issues involved, particularly with warming that I'll address later. So we will expect to see many more trapping stations. In terms of mosquitoes in general, everybody knows the rules of the game. Personal protection, DEET works. And the second is there's lots of information out there about both tick-proofing your yards and mosquito-proofing your yards that are really just common sense. But the town may play a role in mosquito control. Occasionally, that nasty thing of let's spray raises its head. That is always a tough decision. One, because of the environmental issues associated with spraying. It's not like when we were kids and everybody sprayed. But also, all it really does is hit the adult population that's there. And so larviciding is really a very important preventive measure, and it's a place where the towns come in. So as you're starting to work on your budget, you may want to think about investing in some larvicide, and in those summer months when mosquitoes become more prevalent, that we consider larviciding our storm drains and other places that are natural breeding grounds. You know, it's not up to us to go on personal property, but it's up to us to try to protect the public. And Charlie's not up here, but he likes to use the example of Florida to put risk in perspective.
I'm a Floridian, I kind of have to.
EEE is endemic in Florida. They have it all year round. They have figured out how to live with it. So I think, again, it's important to put risk in perspective. We promise that we will, before May, work on educational materials that we will send out both to folks in Public Works and clearly for the public around Eastern equine encephalitis. So that the fear issue hopefully will be lessened. We don't know what this next season will bring us, but if there are more cases, people will just be more concerned. Yeah. So the other thing I want to then talk about is getting into our ticks and friends and talking about that a little bit. Here you have a slide of our experience with tick-borne diseases for this calendar year. Where this comes from is basically, since we actually had a council person ask us, how do you know this? My kid had Lyme. We do have authority as public health to require laboratories to report in certain conditions and findings, and for providers to report certain conditions and findings. And that's how we know if someone goes in and has a blood test done and it's positive for Lyme, or you see here babesiosis and another one called anaplasmosis, then we would hear about it. Also, if you showed up in your physician's office and you had that nice big red bull ring and they diagnosed it, they are supposed to report that. So that's where these numbers come from. Lyme, again, is one that we've gotten very familiar with. It's our own homegrown. I think most people up at the table, except maybe Mike, were around and remember the 70s when it was first discovered down in Lyme, Connecticut. This year, through September alone, there were 901 cases reported. And to be considered a case, you have to meet certain criteria. So there may be people out there who had it, but it didn't meet the criteria to get officially counted. So on an annual basis, we see in Connecticut about 2,700 cases for the state as a whole. So if you look at what we've...
Excuse me, Pat, have the numbers in Lyme disease ever decreased or increased over the years, or have they consistently increased?
Well, there are two things. One is people recognize it more, so that also contributes to increases. But I think we've pretty much leveled off at around the, between the 3,000 and 5,000 cases a year.
The weather does affect it as well, the tick population.
Right. Yeah, so if we have a really bad year in winter and we kill off the ticks, which doesn't always happen, you might have a reduction in the prevalence. So that will affect it. But in the old days where you kind of had to go out in the woods, you don't have to go out in the woods. It's in your yard, it's in my yard. And they are very prolific. So if you look at the town of Berlin, we have had Lyme, we've had some babesiosis. Anaplasmosis is much rarer, so there are only 6 cases among us. So we had roughly 52 cases of tick-borne diseases reported in our 4 towns. And again, it's a challenge that's only going to get worse. So my point in spending time on this one is that with climate change and the warming, we will begin to see more species of both ticks and mosquitoes coming into our area. We will begin to see diseases that we have not seen in a long time or have never seen in our part of the country, like malaria and yellow fever and dengue fever, and that we really need to be concerned and prepared for this kind of thing to happen. I'm sure that most of you have no idea why the CDC was actually founded. It was founded back in 1956 because we still had endemic malaria in the United States. So this is a generation, and probably even my generation for the most part, that didn't live through epidemics of yellow fever in Philadelphia or New Jersey back in the 1800s that killed off a lot of people. And again, it's really not to scare people, but to make us aware that climate change is going to have a lot of effects on health and public health issues. And perhaps at some time in the future, we may decide to do a small forum together to talk about what those implications might be. And now to move on to perhaps a slightly more, whoops, I'm going the wrong way, sorry guys. Something that might be a little more challenging is, let's talk about immunizations for a while. What you have up here is the measles cases in the United States from 1950 to 2000. And again, just to talk about vaccination programs, which are a hallmark of public health and have been since the end of the 18th century. So the concept of vaccination programs is not just to protect the individual. This has nothing, well, of course it has something to do with the individual. I don't want you to get a disease. But the concept, and you've heard the word before, herd immunity. We are doing this to protect the entire community. It is not an individual benefit, is it a common good benefit? So measles is so highly contagious that it is essentially a universal disease in the absence of immunization. If you look at this, again, this is looking at 1950 to 2000, you can see that the vaccine was not even available until 1963. Now that doesn't seem possible because we all think of these things as having been there forever. And some people obviously see them as a violation of their rights. But in the decade before 1963, before the vaccine was available, nearly all children got measles by the time they were 15 years of age. And I would guess most of us, or many of us in this room, had natural measles. And it's estimated that 3 to 4 million people were infected every year. As many as 400 to 500 died, 48,000 hospitalized, and over 1,000 would have had encephalitis. An interesting tidbit if you look at 2000, and that inset, as we got to the smaller numbers, that's just to show you changing the axis smaller so you can see, yes, there were still a lot of cases, and then it began to come out. The United States actually eliminated and declared measles eliminated in 2000. Needless to say, it didn't last very long. So, moving on. As you know, there are laws in the state of Connecticut that talk about vaccination requirements for children entering our schools. And the state of Connecticut, the Department of Public Health has had this data for many years. When I was a director of health, I had school nurses, and my nurses were out there looking up all the numbers and sending the data in. It's really only in the last 2 years they've actually taken a close look and decided to do something about looking at the data. Again, just to let you know what's happened in the last several years, you saw that nice information about it going down. In 2016, we had 86 cases in the country. 17, it was up to 120. 18, it was up to 375. And at the end of this year, it was 1,282 cases in 31 states.
Really?
4 in Connecticut. So obviously, there are some huge issues. And the last editorial comment I'll make before we talk about this is in the Republic of Congo, they are experiencing a dual epidemic of Ebola and measles. The deaths due to measles actually overcame the deaths due to Ebola, and more than 1,500 people died due to measles in a 5-month period. And I say that not to scare anyone, but again to remind everyone that these things are really not trivial. Okay, so let's take a look at our school data. First of all, where this comes from, as I mentioned, the school nurses put this all together, and they are required to send this to the state health department each year. There are different times that kids will be getting shots or being looked at. Those of you who are parents probably are familiar with the blue form. So all of this comes off of the blue form that's filled out on all of our kids. So that's where the information comes from. Let's talk about medical exemptions first. The reason that we have medical exemptions is for children who have an illness that precludes them from being able to get a vaccine. And more and more, in your schools, certainly in mine in Bristol, we had kids with cancer. We had kids who were very immunosuppressed. We had kids of a lot of conditions that did not allow them to get vaccinated. And so that's the reason that it's so important to have herd immunity. With any of these vaccines, we consider a level of 95% coverage to be able to provide the kind of herd immunity that keeps us from having outbreaks. So this data we're looking at now is based on the reports of this year's kindergarten classes and last year's kindergarten classes in schools with greater than or equal to 30 kids in the kindergarten class. So I have no idea what your class sizes are. I just have this information. If you take a good look, every one of our schools has religious exemptions, and in some of them they have gone up. One that certainly jumps out at me is Hubbard School with 11%. And just to give you an example, if there were 100 kids in that class, that means you got 11 kids who are not immunized. You're very lucky because you will notice that you don't have any medical exemptions this year. If you look at last year's, you obviously had a couple kids who had medical exemptions. And the way you get your average is you add those two together. So last year, you would have had 5% by adding those two together in one of the schools. So this is really concerning, and doubly concerning because it's my town and because we have a school with one of the highest rates in our 4 towns. It's a critical issue, it's an important issue, and one we need to talk about more. We all know what's happening probably in the very first weeks of February. It is something that's high on the legislature's list. It will be taken up very quickly. And I think it behooves all of us to take an interest in what happens up there. So I'm more than happy, as is Charlie, to continue talking to you privately if you have questions or want to talk about any more of this.
May I ask just one question? Is this the standard MMR vaccine that they're getting? So it's covering measles, mumps, and rubella? Do they still do it that way?
Yeah.
And is there a booster that's involved as well? Or is
Yes,
it
there are boosters, and I think, again, not to get into a discussion of vaccines and how they work. There's very little active measles. I mean, the germ's still out there, but because the illness itself is not very prevalent, all of us have waning immunity because we're not getting bumped up by having somebody who has the illness. So you notice that with this particular vaccine, we started out with you got it once, and then we realized, well, there was some waning stuff going on, so people got it again at 12. And if you decided to go back to college tomorrow and you had to get a shot again, that's not unusual.
my kids have? That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is the MMR, and certainly, we know that all the talk about autism being related to vaccines has been debunked. So, well, as I said, we'll be happy to take it up and talk with any of you or anything else we talked about today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, one final thing, just to kind of close this out. As we look to the future and as we prepare for the future, we do have a couple things that we want to make you aware of. One, we have always looking at our administrative and health policies, one of which that we've talked about for the past few years has been the adoption of the FDA food code. The state of Connecticut has been dragging their feet a little bit, and we haven't adopted that code yet. It should be coming here. But we're doing them all. But we are looking at revising all of our codes and are working with a pro bono partnership for some attorney support to be able to get those codes revised. That's coming up here hopefully by the summertime. Community health assessment and improvement planning. We as an agency go through a cycle where we actually do our health assessments. We're coming into that cycle now. So we are going to be engaging each one of our towns in how we actually look at our data, all the data that we have available about health conditions and the gaps and the issues that we have. And then we want to also engage you in planning for how we improve the health of our communities. That's one of our main functions. It's not just to keep you at status quo, but to improve these things. So we look forward to engaging and working with Roche and all of the town council and as we go through that improvement process. My last words, as always, are thank you. Thank you for your continued support to our agency, and we stand ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Charlie and Pat, appreciate you guys coming and updating us and for all the work you do to keep us safe as possible. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Human behavior elements.
Yeah, oh, yes, we know that. Yes, we know that. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to shut this off.
Okay, moving on to 3.
Agenda item number 3, it's time for us to renew a gasoline contract. It's done twice a year, once in January for the gasoline and in July for diesel, and the current contract expired, and I think Jim has the new prices as of today. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Simons.
As of 6:30 tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
6:30 tonight, Iran attacked our bases. So that means that tomorrow morning when we go to lock in our prices, they will all be changed for the better or for the worse. But as of tonight, our price for locking in our fuel, gasoline for 64,000 gallons is $1.92 a gallon. On top of that, of course, we have to pay the government the taxes, which is another 17 cents. Last year's contract was $1.62, so we're up 30 cents. The impact on our budget is going to be a little more than $20,000. Again, I'm recommending that we utilize the low bid out of Krog, who has been our provider for a number of years with no problem, and that is East River Energy.
I thought we had plenty of oil now in our country. What's the story? Why are the prices going up? I thought we had a glut of oil. What happened here?
Actually, the United States is the largest producer of crude oil.
That's what I thought.
But we sell it.
Yeah.
That's what keeps our
Got it.
our GP down,
Yeah.
which is good. Oil on the market is actually exchanged or bargained by the U.S. dollar against the European dollar, which our dollar, when it sinks, which it has been sinking, drives the price of fuel up.
It's always something.
Where we are.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
I can tell you that tonight is $1.92. When I call tomorrow morning after the market's open, I have no idea where it's going to be.
I bet the right way on the options market. Yeah. Okay. So appreciate that information. We'll go ahead and take a motion.
I move to award the contract for the purchase of 64,000 gallons of gasoline for the calendar year of 2020 to the lowest bidder, utilizing the Krog Purchasing Consortium.
Thank you. Take a second on that.
Second.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Let's hope for lower prices tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
I doubt it, but
No.
probably going up, right?
Was just
We were sitting in the back of the room and just following things going through, and it doesn't look good.
No, I'm sure.
Prices are already, the futures are already going up.
Yeah.
The stock market's already going down.
Hey.
You finished?
Is there other bad news? Besides measles and mumps, and now the oil prices are up? It's getting worse. It's getting worse as we go here.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is we have prices locked up for these two vehicles that you
That's
have,
it.
the next one,
There
right?
you go.
Yeah.
Some good news. So that's agenda item number 4.
There we go, number 4. Here
We
we
go
go.
for the highway department and for the police.
Yes. So we have two
Simons.
vehicles on here. One is an F-450 chassis, and it's just a cabin chassis. We are going to then go out for the flatbed body, the snowplow, the lighting that's going to go on this, and the lift gate. And we're doing it this way because we're building a truck to meet our needs and not just right off the street, put a flatbed on it and send it on the road. And what we're going to try to do with this truck is we're going to try to not only make it a useful truck as a flatbed, but we're also going to put some lighting on it so it can do some preventive work when they're paving roads with traffic control. So we're trying to look at it that way.
Great.
And the second vehicle is the Expedition for the supervisor's vehicle for the police department.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and get 2 different motions here. Take the first motion.
Move to approve the purchase of one Ford F-450 from Tasker Ford, utilizing the State of Connecticut DAS contract 19PSX0161 for the amount not to exceed $34,758.55.
Okay, thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you. We'll go ahead. Any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Number 2.
Number 2, approve the purchase of one Ford Expedition SSV from Tasker Ford, utilizing the State of Connecticut DAS contract number 19PSX0161 for an amount not to exceed $38,404.45.
Thank you. Second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, council? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Number 5.
Agenda item number 5, you probably recall just before the holiday shutdown, I sent an email to the council members asking for your approval to go ahead and initiate a PO for a truck that needed some repairs, a fire truck, from the insurance proceeds. And this is coming back to you to confirm this as it was approved.
Yes. Okay, I think we all said yes, so we'll go ahead and take the official motion here. Yeah.
Move to waive the town's purchasing requirements and approve the repair of the fire truck MP number 0386 for an amount of $13,806.65, which will be repaired at Turnpike Motors in Newington, Connecticut, as this is in the town's best interest.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second that.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any motion carries? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Agenda item number 6.
Pray for gas, low gas prices.
Is a discussion item. This is something we discussed at a previous meeting and just today. Part of the budget process, we want to try and get more information to you earlier so that you have an opportunity to ask questions, ask for additional information, and as a first step, we are going to share with you what the Capital Committee recommended. I applaud the town council for a few years ago to come up with the plan to have a capital plan in place, and the town staff and the committee has worked really hard to pull this together, and it is very impressive actually when you sit through the capital meetings to get a feel for what the needs are at the town and how thoughtful the staff is putting this together. What I like to do next year when we go through this process right from the beginning, since we have a Board of Finance representation, to have someone from the council at the meetings as well, right from the beginning. So with that, I will invite Mr. Delaney to come and give you an overview of capital request.
So, Mr. Finance Director, which way is gas going tomorrow morning? Do we know? Can we place our bets?
Rare that the finance director gets to come up and be the ray of sunshine. Before I start, you had some wonderful reading left for you this evening with our CAFR. With that is the culmination of our FY19, and as happens every year as we culminate the next year, we take about 2 breaths and then start in with the next budget. In the past, we have followed the process with the Capital Committee and come forward with a budget, the town manager's budget submission in March. In an effort to have more transparency and an effort to have more dialogue around capital, so by the time we get to the budget process, there's been an opportunity to vet out what was included and, just as importantly, what wasn't included in the capital plan. We wanted to come forward. This was shared with the Board of Finance at their meeting last month, and sharing with you tonight. The agenda item obviously includes a lot of numbers. I don't intend to go through them, but I'm happy to answer any questions on them. I just wanted to hit 4 main points quickly. First, the overall budget, if you look at what's in the general fund, so what would be embedded within the mill rate, as well as bonding, use of any capital that we may have in place or fund balance, the total proposal is just shy of $8.2 million, which is a substantial amount of money, no doubt. As you look, in the very back of this is a breakdown of a lot of the town's infrastructure. You're talking 111 miles of roads, 37 bridges. You're talking about 13 fire apparatus. You're talking about 11 playgrounds, 15 baseball, softball fields, 11 soccer, football fields. There's a lot. Buildings, roads, bridges, fields. And the effort of the committee and the effort of the plan is really around maintaining, replacing where necessary, repairing where possible, the existing infrastructure. Some of the things that were mentioned earlier in the meeting tonight, the committee really doesn't focus on the new big items because that's not really where staff's going to drive the conversation. Certainly, if the decision is a new police station or senior center or whatever that might be, we'll be 100% behind it and do everything to execute it really well. The committee focuses really on maintaining, improving the quality and the safety of the infrastructure and assets for the town. So the $8 million is a substantial number, but it is intended to deal with those matters. Second thing I'll point out, and it's in the front of the agenda, so I won't read it through you, but the 5 different parts from general fund through bonding, through grants as well. So we are trying to leverage all different types of funding mechanisms. It's not just come back and ask you for a big tax increase and everybody can break out their wallet. The intent is to address it, but to try to do it in ways that don't burden the taxpayer with the full cost. Third thing I'll point out, as you go to the side full of numbers, the very top, the request of general fund items was just shy of $7 million from the departments. And what we want to do this year is kind of share with you what those requests are. As the committee comes forward and as the town manager submits his budget, there may be instances where the council, the Board of Finance, certainly there may be citizens who voice a feeling that something that was removed from the list should be included, maybe in place of or in addition to. So we want to make sure everybody's aware of what departments who are closest to these assets came forward seeking funding for. At the same time, we also want to be aware of the responsibility we have to try to control spending and be responsible from that perspective. We established a target of about $2 million going in and said we really can't go above that coming out as a committee. So we started with a lofty endeavor. We brought that down to $2.2 million, and you can see the listing there. What I will point out, the last thing, and then I'll pause for any questions, is there's no request tonight for any vote or anything on that matter. However, I do want to point out one of the items on here, which is under the bonding. The HVAC system, the air conditioning systems at the elementary schools are in real need of replacement. They're in need of replacement, one, just for an air quality and functional. Many of them are broken. And as a result, there are individual units within the classrooms. As the town has embarked more aggressively in the last year, but even the last few years on school security, the school security officer has been doing audits of each of the schools. And as he walked around the elementary schools, he pointed out, you've invested in security vestibules, access controls, all of these great features, and then you crack open a window so you can vent the individual room air conditioner right out. So in addition to the air quality and the need for the replacement, this is also something that goes to the heart of maintaining our school security. The objective would be to start with Willard. It's the oldest system. If we were to go down this path, the idea, and this came from the Director of Business Operations from the Board of Ed, and I think it's a great idea, is we run summer school at Willard. The parking lot, the loading dock needs to be replaced as well. If we're going to do it, we should look at doing it one summer. Move summer school one summer and take care of at least the infrastructure. If we can't get the units completed, at least the piping, parking lot, the loading dock, take care of Willard. That way summer school can move back the next year and work and continue. If we were to try and do that for this summer, we'd really have to adopt a bond ordinance and be prepared to move forward with that probably in the February timeframe so that we could move forward. Doesn't mean we have to. I'm not in any way trying to imply we have to rush, but that would be the one piece on the list that would need to be considered and supported, or the decision made to defer that for another year or more, if that's your choice. But I think that's the one piece we'd have to move on sooner than even the budget process. And with that, I will stop.
That's the, Kevin, you talk about that, that's the 2.5 million Willard HVAC?
Correct. And the idea would be to do Willard first, and then Griswold, Hubbard, the order would be determined after. But
Just some of the bridges you mentioned. Now, some of the bridges, wasn't there like 4 bridges that what do we seek reimbursement on? Remember that federal program?
There is a 4-bridge rehab program, so rather than the full replacement, the rehab program. The engineering work is nearly complete. We'll be moving forward, hopefully, over the next, I'll be generous and say over the next year, on construction.
Okay.
We've done a number of bridges in town.
Right.
Certainly, you've seen Burnham was recently completed, High Road before that, Farmington was done.
Yeah.
Glen Street will be coming up. That was identified. It's a smaller bridge, but it was identified as a critical item, which means that the load on the bridge was reduced. That affects everything from large trucks going through, school buses going over the road. If you carry it to the worst case, if we don't do anything and address it, we could end up in a spot. This is an extreme case, but could happen where you close the road to traffic. So Mike is going out for engineering, and we've looked at a couple of options, and now we're going to dig into kind of the middle of the road option. Rather than a quick fix, 5 years, let's get by this, or the full 70-year life, replace the bridge, kind of the middle ground piece. And you can see the funding in here, the $500,000 is the current estimate that's in place. Once we have the engineering, go out to bid, we'll have a more refined number, but that's the rough estimate right now. That's in relation to $1 million to $1.5 million if we were to do the 70-year type of solution. One thing I will point, the first bridge that's on this list is Kensington. This is engineering cost, so it's substantial. However, we're working with Capital Region Council of Governments to seek out 100% reimbursement on the construction phase. So the town would be responsible for the engineering and then looking at a grant for the construction phase.
Question.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I don't know this, HVAC stuff. So you're saying that all of the elementary schools, all of the systems need to be replaced, completely replaced? These are like antiquated, are they original?
Yeah, the way the facilities director described it was, we have these old units here that were basically independent units. The proposal would be to replace in the elementary school similar to what was replaced here at Town Hall. They're more efficient, but they also provide a central computer-based operational element. So there are many times when something happens here at Town Hall, and they're actually able to fix it through the computer, making adjustments from the facilities area down on off Material. So there's a huge advantage there, especially when you think about here, we have some different offices, but in a school, you could literally have calls from, worst case scenario, every classroom. So it's also more manageable. So you gain efficiencies and manageability.
And they are projects that can be completed over the summer.
The full school would not be completed over a summer. What would happen is, maybe I should say it's highly unlikely. I guess it's not impossible. The idea would be that over one summer, the piping would be done, so the physical infrastructure, and then you would allow for the compressor units and the other elements that are outside of the classroom and that could be done during the school year. But the goal would be to complete the things that would be disruptive during the school year over the summer. We do recognize both the 8 million is a large number, the 7 million proposed, and even the 2.2 million. They are large numbers. I think as you look down the list, there are many very important initiatives that weren't proposed by the committee, just simply because we had to make some tough decisions as to what should and shouldn't be on there. We did try to focus on the key categories, and that's where you see it broken down between infrastructure, public safety, education, vehicles, and recreation. We did look at, hopefully the expectation is by Thursday's Park and Rec meeting there will be information back from the study to get a better feel for Sage 1 and the requirements and what's out there. This proposal is calling for grass on Sage 1, not the turf option. The feeling was that with everything that's on here, and maybe more importantly, everything that was not put into the committee column that was actually dropped, we were hard pressed to push for $1.6 million in turf for the softball field while we took off a number of other very important initiatives. So the goal was to balance the need to address the field and the other elements, not just the field, but all the elements around Sage 1, while also trying to be able to finance other needs in the capital plan as well.
How long will that, so the grass option, which we've heard about, how long will, I mean, I know we heard that gets eaten up very quickly, right? I mean, or the field, just due to the excessive use, but is that?
The Jen will be speaking with the Parks and Rec Commission on Thursday as to what the proposal would be with midget football if the decision was to go down the grass path, because for the town to invest, admittedly, $600,000 is a lot less than $1.6 million, but $600,000 is still a lot of money to invest. Right. The feeling is that from staff, it wouldn't make sense to put $600,000 into the field and then continue the existing process and just tear it up in 2 or 3 years. That would be a waste. So the plan is to have staff talk with Parks and Rec Commission on Thursday night, and then be able to call a facilities meeting. So I'm not sure exactly who from the council is on there, but invite representation from the Board of Finance as well, so we can try to get a kind of a consistent thought process on what's best for the community. And that would be typically in advance of the Parks and Rec meeting on February 13th. So the hope is that as we put this out, as we start talking about it, and as we have these meetings, by the time we get to the budget process, a lot of these matters have been discussed, addressed, and whatever the decision is for the best interest of the community would come probably easier in the budget process.
And that would be coming out of that surplus funds?
That's the proposal. That's the proposal. The surplus at the end of the year was just over $1.5 million, so it would use a portion of that. And I'm sure it wouldn't surprise you that I would like to see the other portion used for the pension fund, but we'll defer that to another conversation.
Okay. Well, it's going to be another fun budget season. It's always fun. All right. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Delaney?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Thank you very much.
I think I have the next item, too.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. You're still here. All right. Okay, good.
Agenda item number 7. So this is more good news. We've been collecting more revenue.
Good.
From Tax Management Associates, Inc. We came to you probably a couple of meetings ago to get an appropriation from the collected revenues. We have exceeded that as well. So Kevin is here to ask for more from the revenues that we have already collected.
I mean, as Rosh pointed out, this is appropriating tax revenue that was not in the budget. It was derived from personal property audits that have been conducted on businesses across town. And we pay 30% on the cash collected, but I want to emphasize it's the cash collected. It's not identified, it's not even billed. We have to actually collect the tax money, so we are only appropriating 30% or the fee that we're charged based on taxes we have collected in excess of what was budgeted for personal property.
Okay. Take a motion on this?
I move
Meeting.
to call a town meeting at 6:45 on January 21st, 2020, to approve an unbudgeted appropriation of $14,200 from the personal property taxes and back tax interest, as detailed on the motion, accounts in the general fund to contractual services in the Assessor's Department, pending the approval of the Board of Finance.
Okay. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Good night.
All right, agenda item number 8, moving on to the TOD project. This has to do with Chris Hedges down with the flu, so
Oh,
I'm playing Chris today.
okay.
861 Farmington Avenue, we have some environmental issues there. Needed some vapor testing. Initial test was done, but it was not conclusive because there's a sump pump that is possibly getting some vapors up into the basement. So this is to do some further testing and to find out ways where we could seal off part of the basement so that you will not get these vapors up into the future. This is coming from the Brownfields grant that we have from Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development. And this request is to go with Laredo Engineering for $5,330 to perform these additional testing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know we've seen this stuff before, so another little continuation of.
This engineering firm's made a career out of this project.
We should buy Laredo Engineering. Yes, I know.
Okay, we'll take a motion on that.
I move to waive the bidding process in the best interest of the town and to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract agreement amendment with Laredo Engineering in the amount of $5,330 to evaluate the vapor issues at 861 Farmington Avenue to be paid from the demolition and environmental remediation account.
Thank you. Second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I think I have a case of the vapors after seeing the capital budget, but that's okay. All right, so that's all right. What's next?
Right, agenda item number 9. This is good stuff. This has to do with the Timberland 50th year celebration.
Oh, there we go.
And this
Good
is
fun.
coming to the council to seek approval for the sponsorship program, which is attached to the back of the agenda item, which shows the various sponsorship levels and what you would get if you pay these amounts. You want to add anything, John?
That's pretty good, but I'll add just the fact that currently right now we have a commitment from Hartford Distributors for $1,500 for a sponsorship.
Good.
And we're seeking anywhere from 10 to 15 different sponsors for this program to help defray the cost of the celebration, 50th anniversary celebration.
Great.
And Gail Lemire is also here. She's the chairperson of the 50th anniversary planning committee.
Good. Like a fun time. Get some more sponsors. Shake the bushes for some more trees for some more sponsors, right? Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a motion on this.
I move to approve the sponsorship program designed to provide funding for the 50th anniversary celebration planned at Timberland Park on July 18th, 2020.
Second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Jonathan? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Agenda item number 10. This is, I think we came to you some time ago about this DOT.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
They,
Yeah, right. Yep.
purchasing the land from the town, that we will eventually get back, even though they're paying for it. So this particular request is from Mike Ahern. You want to probably give a little bit more explanation, because we send it back to Planning and Zoning for 824 review, and it is coming with a favorable recommendation.
Yeah, just back up a little bit. This is in connection with a bridge program, basically a replacement. That's going to be 80% reimbursed by the federal dollars, run through the state. So the state's process requires these taking of our land in connection with the bridge project, then giving it back to us because they want to make sure it's dedicated in the future for bridge rehab or replacement. So it's and the P&Z signed off on it with the Section 824 recommendation, so we're all set to go.
Great.
Motion?
Yeah. Go ahead and take the motion.
Move to accept the Connecticut Department of Transportation's offer of $1,800 for 2 portions of town land totaling approximately 3,596 square feet adjacent to bridge number 06122 on Wildermere Road, and authorize the town manager in coordination with the Corporation Council to execute a deed and any other required documents to effectuate the transfer of the subject land to the state and attend the closing to complete the sale of this property, and to file maps and documents with the town clerk and other departments as required.
All right, thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 11, Mike Sting for this. This is our refuse and recycling collection contract runs out June 30th. And we have a proposal from the staff to stay with the current provider, and I'll have Mike explain the reasoning behind it and the pricing and the homework that Jim Hobel and others have done to compare the towns and what they're getting.
Right. Trash Away has been doing, from what I understand, the trash collection and recycling collection in town since the 1970s. So they've been a long-standing vendor. There was a competitive bid in 2008, I believe, for the solid waste, so that was the last competitive situation Trash Away was involved with. Since then, there were 3-year contracts that were extended to the current one, which is due to expire the end of June of this year. In my time here, which is a little bit over a year, we've had no trouble with Trash Away. They actually have cameras in their cabins now. They have GPS locators, so if we get any complaints from residents about they passed my house, we go back to their footage, and I find out that the residents actually didn't put the bins out. So we've had very few legitimate complaints. I think in my time, we actually had one where a driver looked away, went past someone's house, but very, very reputable company and very trouble-free. So what Jim did was he went through, because we knew we couldn't do this without some cost checking, went through the local municipalities and set up the table that's with your packet. You'll see that Newington, right now the unit cost for Trash Away is $9.79, basically per unit or per household, which is, I think, a great deal, but I live in a municipality where I pay $30 a month. So, but anyway, compared to the surrounding towns, we're actually Rocky Hill, which is a population almost identical to Berlin, is at exactly the same unit cost. Newington is the lowest at $8.07. I should note that Newington is about 1/3 the area of Berlin at 13 square miles. We're at 27. With a population of 30,000, we're at 20,000. So there's more people. The routes are actually more efficient. We're like, why would that be? Right. It's just a smaller but more dense population there, or area. And Meriden's basically an inner city, so that's really not apples to apples. And then after that, Farmington is $9.89, South Windsor is $10.18, Cheshire's at $13.74, and Weathersfield is at $14.33 per unit. So
Need some homework on Weathersfield.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I saw that as high. I didn't do any homework on that. But Trash Away, as an incentive, they came up to us to basically extend the contract. They would waive the CPI index increase this year, which would be a 17,700 savings, and it also have some savings in the next 2 years of the extension, and they would maintain everything the same in their contract. So it would just be an amendment to the existing contract, take us out to 2023, and so that's what our request is for here.
Seems to make sense. Thank you for the analysis and all, and checking on all that. So we'll go ahead and take a motion.
I move to authorize the town manager, subject to the Corporation Council review, to enter into an agreement to extend both contracts number 2009-10, collection of recyclables, and contract 2000-11, collection of refuse, with Trash Away Incorporated of New Britain, Connecticut, through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, before you go, one's a little bit off topic, and it's maybe not in your purview. You know those pink bags? Remember whatever happened with those things? Because I don't even...
They're collecting.
I don't even see... I mean, I never even got any. I think we might have got some, but there seemed to be very sporadic.
Yeah, there should have been a second mailing.
Okay.
They missed 4,000
What-
households the
Here
first
for
time
20
around.
years, 30 years, what pink bags are we
Yeah.
So we had this program where they come in, you could put in, I think, used clothing, right?
And shoes, like soft textile
Yeah.
recycling, yeah.
I mean, so are they picking them up?
Yes, they are.
Are they? Okay.
If you put them out on recycling day next to your recycle bin, Trash Away knows not to take that.
The pink
They'll just
bag.
pop your bin into their truck, and then Simple Recycling, the outfit that will come around with a van, and they'll pick it up.
Okay, and so they've been doing that.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Where do you get these bags?
Actually, we have them in the Public Works office, so if you come to Lisa.
Heard of it, that's great.
Yeah, but they were, initially, the way it was supposed to work is there was a packet mailed out it was supposed to be to every household in Berlin. What happened was they looked at all the Newington addresses and didn't mail to the ones that had Newington and East Berlin. So it was 3,000, then it was 4,000. So you didn't receive a mailing?
I know I didn't get the first time. I'll have to check on the second. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me ask my
I
wife.
have some in my office too, Mike. So
You
I'll
have some?
the next one.
Yeah, I'll just grab some.
I mean, I give it to Goodwill anyway.
Got a lot of stuff
I'm
to
like,
put.
I never,
Right.
Yeah.
They should have come though, I think, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And one last question, another one off topic. The light post on the street off of Four Rod. Remember there was a light post, there was three
Well,
like priority light posts.
Yeah, those have been marked out by the Call Before You Dig.
Yeah.
They're going to be done, I think, in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, they're working on that. It's
What?
they're,
Guy
well,
told
this
me
is why staying with Trash Away, a known vendor, is kind of exemplified by the trouble we're having now with our streetlight vendor, because they came in and they're actually a little slow. So we're still in this transition phase, but it's taking way too long.
I mean, that resident told me that light post has been down. I can't remember the name of that street, but you know what.
Was it Orchard? Because Orchard was
No, it's
done.
not Orchard Road. It's,
we
it's
have
off of Four Rod.
We have three: Grapevine,
I think
Lamentation, and New Park Drive.
it's
Those are the-
Grapevine.
Yeah.
It's Grapevine.
That one has been marked out. It
It's
should
a-
be done
it's
shortly.
a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
At the end. It's at the end of like a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, there were 3 poles that were knocked down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said it's been.
No, it has been. I think it was
year?
inherited before the previous
Is it a
vendor
year or
took
more?
over.
A year? More than a year.
It could have been a year. Yeah.
And they were like, I mean, I saw it myself. There was wires still hanging out of the ground. I mean, there was a cone over them, but.
Yeah.
What is
Well-
the problem with the? I mean, that's outrageous,
Well,
really.
what
Paying
happened
this vendor a lot of
initially
money, I
was
hope not.
Yeah, what happened initially was the old vendor didn't transition the new work order, so there was a little glitch there. But then the new vendor has not been responding in a timely manner. So there's going to be a meeting probably in the next month or so about this, because I've been hearing it from Arosh, from you, and obviously from the residents.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there'll be a little more giddy app, I believe, in the future, or there'll be a change.
Okay. Did we switch the vendor on our?
We did, yeah.
We
yeah.
switched because the first one was not.
We went out to bid.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I was saying about Trash Away. Sometimes it's,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, if you have a known entity.
New guy was the low bidder, maybe? Is
Yes,
that the problem?
yes. And they
Ah.
promised us the.
Really low?
They promised
No,
us
they don't
the
do any
world.
work, so of course it's really low. Yeah, all right, I get it.
So, yeah, we're in we're thinking about our options here.
Okay, good. Yeah, because the
Hopefully,
resident.
the next 2 weeks, those
I appreciate that.
polls will be out.
Yeah, because I mean, he was, but rightly so.
Oh, I know.
Very upset how long that
yeah.
pole has been there with the
A
wires.
year is way too long.
Yeah.
It should be on the order of maybe a couple of weeks.
I
maybe a
would
month.
think, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see a month or even
Yeah.
2, but you start stretching it to a year. That's.
Yeah.
And I promised them it'd happen in 3 weeks, so I'm behind now by 2 months already. So that's too bad. But anyway,
Well, you can have them call me if you know.
Yeah. I'll.
I think I've heard from that gentleman too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it the house at the end of that cul-de-sac on Grapevine?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Could you just contact him and just relay that it is coming?
done.
Yeah. This will reassure him it will be done. I feel terrible about that.
I'd rather call him and say it's up. Are you happy?
You could,
Is it, you know?
you could do that, I guess, if it is within a couple of weeks.
The light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
That's a good
Right at the
question.
end of the cul-de-sac, Charlie.
stay off the cul-de-sac for a while, maybe. I
Yeah, so we're working, I would call it, the transition has been way too long on this contract.
Well, I appreciate it, as long as you're working on it.
Yeah.
Paying attention to it. Because maybe we need to, I guess, right?
Yeah.
After the meeting, see what they tell us.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Right,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thanks. Okay, where are we at here now? So we are at our, oh my goodness, yeah, where we're at now. So, can we, I mean, we either do it now or do it later. We do have a bunch of appointments to make.
We normally do it at the next meeting,
Want to do it at the next one?
whatever your preference is. But,
Brendan really likes this. He wants-
Sooner or later. I mean, we could wait till the next one, that's fine. The next one? We want the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So it's all good. We have a lot to do, and that's great. We still have people.
I like the numbers here.
But I would also encourage you, if I may.
Yeah.
Is that, and this is part of the reason why we do this, or we have done it this way. You have the ones who, for the most part, want to be reappointed.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So now you kind of know the openings.
Yes.
Is there a
Talk to your
chart
town-
about the openings? Because I see that there's some that aren't gonna renew, and most of them are looking to renew.
Yeah.
But is there somewhere where we know how many vacancies there currently are? 'Cause there
Probably
could
on-
be some-
You see it on the.
On the list, on that list it's on. So on this list, it will say,
It gives it a
that's everything.
vacancy?
Yeah, that's everything.
I give you the application in order of the,
Of these applications, okay.
How it
The list here
appears.
matches
Yeah,
it.
so we'll work on that.
I want to let you be aware of two things, and that is, number one, if you have a vacancy, like say the VNA, it's a huge vacancy going on there. Anyone who wants to be reappointed has to fill those smaller terms, those year or 2-year terms first. So they don't get their full 3-year or 5-year term. They have to fill up those small ones first, those little vacancies. So we want to make sure that the people who you want to keep on these committees for a long time can go on for their full term, especially with land use, because that's where you make a lot of your decisions. I will also stress the fact of the Board of Ethics. You have 2 senior members who cannot be reappointed by charter because they have served 2 3-year terms. All right, Winstead and Lou. And the thing with the Board of Ethics is, and we've been very fortunate in Berlin, we've had very few ethical complaints. It's almost non-existent. And that's a problem too, because people don't want to be on a committee that never meets. But it's a good thing they don't meet.
Well, we can make some, I guess. We can make a bunch of ethical complaints, keep them busy.
But you
No, I'm
don't
just
want
kidding.
an ethical complaint to come
Right.
against the council
No, we don't want that.
and then try to fill these positions.
Right, right.
All right, so that is always a concern of mine, that those positions are filled. And if anybody wants to talk about any of these things, I'm happy to, I don't want to take up any more of your time. But I can, at the next meeting, push out, who's gone where in a more of a column form for you if you want. But
That's what I was kind of looking
I can
for,
look-
like
I
a
can do
chart of
that.
some sort, be a little easier. yeah.
But I would really encourage you to seek out your town committees, to please get people involved, especially younger people, who are not too young where they're going to college and can't attend meetings, but, who want to get involved in the town and bring something to, And the other thing is you're grooming people, because then they may want to get involved with Board of Finance or Town Council or run for mayor or Board of Education.
They're not that
I
crazy.
mean, that's how people get, like you, how many years were you on planning and zoning?
16.
And then you
Long
got
time.
involved in council.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to happen in 2 years, but it's something that is.
Yeah. It gets them involved in the town and gets them to understand how the town works,
Yes.
which is great, yeah.
Yes.
Kate, you can turn an application right up until when we meet again, is that right?
Yes. I try to get them out to the council on Friday morning, as you see, but I handed them out to you tonight.
Right.
So, and I will do that complete package for you again for the next meeting, just so you have everything, together. All right?
Yeah, we'll wait.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. But it's good, but on the reverse of that, it's great we have a lot of people that have reapplied, and, that's a good thing. Just happy to see that many people reapplying, because sometimes they don't, so that's great. Okay, moving on, we got our town manager's report,
Yes, I
which I knew would be brief tonight, right?
want it to be brief.
No, whatever you have. No,
All night if you
Whatever you
want.
have is good, we're good.
Oh, I have the floor, right?
Yeah, yeah. Have it.
Just quickly, I'll give you an update on some of the big picture strategic initiatives that we have just talked about. I'll start with the senior housing. We had a follow-up meeting with the Housing Authority, Joe Wojcicki, and his financial consultant. The mayor was present. We also invited Jerry Paradis from Board of Finance, and Kevin, myself, Jeff, and to try to get an understanding of their finances and where they are with their planning and request for funding, etc. So as you recall, when they came to the council, they said they might have about a $2 million gap. They would like the council to consider that. They made a presentation to the Board of Finance. That request was about $3.5 million at that time. When we met with them, their gap was $5.5 million that they would want the council to consider. The project cost is the total for 50 units is around $18.5 million, which translates into approximately about
I'm sorry. 50.
369,000. For that, you can probably build a house, individual housing units for that. But again, I'm not being critical here, but I'm just trying to.
So what's the gap at now? We've gone from 2 to 3 to
5.5.
5.5.
Yeah. So they've lined up some funding from the Department of Housing, CHFA funding, but where they are now, for them to move forward with this process, they need a letter of intent from the town saying that we would like to, the town is interested in helping out with the gap. We looked at, the consultant I thought was fairly knowledgeable, had done a lot of projects. He had about 25 item projects that he was involved in. We looked at the pricing of all of them. None of them was at this level, and none of the projects that he was involved in. We also consulted a bond council where they have affordable housing built where the town contributed funds. So I don't think we should be the first town to do that. This is my personal view. If they came in and said there's a $500,000 gap, it's one thing, but 5.5 is a lot of money, and the terms are not good. The $2 million is a outright grant. The other 3.5 is a interest-free loan for 40 years. They won't pay back for 40 years.
I hate to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I called my own consultant and asked him what, he's built a number of elderly housing units. He says that's $80,000 to $100,000 higher per unit than most projects. Is there any explanation why Berlin is so expensive to house older people?
So here's Kevin, the finance director, and I spoke last week, and today we had a follow-up conversation. Actually, Kevin did, and to ask what would the project look like for $13 million without the 5.5 from the town, and the consultant pretty much said, "Well, that's not doable." So I think what we ought to do, bring the consultant in, perhaps someone from the Board of Finance, if someone from the council is interested, actually get into the plants and see what can be done to reduce the gap. Because as it stands now, I don't think it's a project that the town wants to contribute to, not at that level. I mean, there are other options we can look at later. but this funding model is not, I don't think it's in the best interest of the town.
There's been a large sum of money sunk into this project already. My memory serves me right, somewhere around $750,000 has already gone into this thing. And there's
Not from
been
the town, right?
No explanation on where that money went, where it got spent on. Different grants and planning grants and funds and.
Well, right. Some
Over the
of it
last
was
6 years.
spent by the housing authority, right?
Yeah, but
By the housing authority.
Well, no, I'm with you.
My question is on what?
Right. Yeah, because there was, last year, right, the housing authority came to us and told us that they might need $500,000 for something, although that did go away. But we have, I don't know what the consulting fees were, but, we should probably just.
I've spoken with Jeff, Corporation Counsel. He's going to give us some idea of some of the other projects that some other towns have been involved to get.
What's the cost per, what's our cost
pricing
per
and what
unit
it
again?
looks
What was our cost per unit?
369,000.
369, like,
The real indicator is the hard cost construction budget estimate is $230 a square foot, which is very high for this type of housing.
what was the one in Guilford that
The units.
do you remember what the Guilford one was?
It's a smaller project, so it's
Oh.
going to be a higher unit price, but
Okay.
it was probably somewhere in $135 to $150 a square foot.
And that's high because it was a smaller.
Was Whitney
amount of
the
units.
architect on that? Do you remember, Jeff?
Yeah.
Chris was the architect?
Yeah.
So we're kind of way off. If you base it, that's just one project, but,
It's just hard cost.
right.
But,
Right,
there's
put all in,
40%,
yeah.
there's 40% CDs, there's 40% construction documents. So if we get in a room and we look at it, we're gonna have a really good idea.
Okay.
I mean, usually when you're talking about a hard cost, that's for that type of housing at that level, there's a lot of money in the MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Okay.
And that's usually where the low-hanging fruit is from a value engineering perspective, is to figure out whether or not it's over-designed or not.
Okay.
You won't know. I mean, without looking at drawings,
Right.
it's ridiculous to speculate about it. But we'll know pretty quickly once we see what they designed.
How large are these units, if I could just ask that? How large are the units? Do you know how many square feet each unit is roughly? I'm just curious.
Were they
Had a handout.
It's okay.
800?
That's it? So they're small.
1,000?
Thousand,
Thousand?
Close to 1,000, I
Somewhere
think,
around there.
yeah.
Somewhere around there.
yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember now, but.
Even that's not huge.
So
No, I
they have a,
fund it. Could you put out an RFP to build this thing and then just buy it from a private
Well.
developer?
Well,
we've talked about it.
yeah, so I think, this is very, it's been very, very frustrating for all of us. Certainly speaking of planning and zoning, 8 years ago, I think we approved this thing on planning and zoning when I was there. It's still not done, which is hard to believe. And there were some issues that, there were some changes in funding, state funding, and how they fund these projects, which was no one's fault, and it's flip-flopped a few times. But that's unbelievable. We can't get this project built for our residents. So, yeah, we got to really, as fast as we can, figure out which direction, right, to go in and see if we can, because right, we have that option till April 1st, I think, with the housing authority. So as fast as we can figure out if there's a way to go forward with that, that's great. Without, the $5.5 million just seems way out of line with what we would put in, and it's not the normal, and it's not what towns have done anywhere, right? So.
Not that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, so that's just, again, if it was a smaller gap, I think we were all willing to pitch in, but that gap is.
We shouldn't be the first town to do it.
No, let's not be the guinea pig on that one, but,
Not 50 units.
right. So, you're gonna have another meeting and.
That's what I propose, yeah.
Okay, that'd be great, and see where we have to go to get this thing going, because it's really, really it's really frustrating. There's a huge need in Berlin for this. There's a wait list, right, for the senior housing, and again, not through the town's fault or housing authority. There were some definite delays that were unforeseen, but now it's time to get this thing rolling, right?
Build another trailer park.
Yeah, might be better off. But all right, so
All right.
so
We'll
let's
keep you
yeah,
informed.
appreciate that.
We'll get another meeting going with that. Just very quickly with the senior Community Center, you already know we selected, PBC selected a firm, QA&M, Boysenberry, Akari, and Malik. January 23rd meeting, they are going to review the contract. They've already selected the firm, they've told them, but they have not awarded the contract. They're going through the contract review process, and then after that, they'll be ready to award it.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Very quickly, Mr. Mayor, you talked about the Berlin PD. We have a meeting scheduled this Thursday with Police Commission, the chief, representative from the Public Building Commission, PBC, to sort of look at the initial work that was done, especially look at the space needs of the police department. Then also there was a work done by just Jakunski Hume in 2015, some time ago, initial architectural design. And we also hired DPM, I think 2018, to sort of get some construction estimates. So I think we need to sort of get back into it, get everybody on the same page, understand the needs, see exactly what they need. This particular review was done looking at expanding the police department the entire lower level of 240 Kensington Road, with the hopes that the Board of Ed will be relocated somewhere else. I think we ought to look at what the real needs are and see if there are other ways that we can accommodate, because there are a lot of needs that the PD has outlined. But this, again, to sort of jumpstart and get a fast track move on this to quickly decide what we want to do with it. So that meeting is scheduled for this Thursday. We also talked about it is in the Doc McIntosh room. Yeah, I think it's, you wanted the time, it's probably 5 or 6 o'clock this coming Thursday. I'll give you the time. The other one is we also have what you mentioned, the Berlin High School project closeout meeting that's scheduled. That needs to get wrapped up soon. There is from the Board of Ed, they feel that some work needs to be done with the duct system to, improve insulation and prevent potential leaks in the future. As far as the PBC is concerned, the project is complete and has been completed based on, specification, and all the standards have been met. Hence the meeting, to see how we can resolve this, because unless the Board of Ed signs off on the project, and unless they accept the project, we can't close it. And so we need to get moving on that. There's about a $3.5 million retainer that is still out there, so all that is still hanging until we close this project. So that meeting is scheduled January 23rd to try and get people to talk and see what kind of resolution we can come up with.
So the issue is that there are leaks, is that what I'm hearing?
I attended
The ductwork.
an action committee that the actual ductwork that was supposed to be put into the building didn't actually fit within the building. So the ductwork was put on the outside of the building, on the roof. And the issue that they're having is they were told by the contractor the paint that covered over the ducting was supposed to stop leakage, any kind of corrosion, stuff like that. But they're actually finding that there is some type of corrosion already going on. So they're looking to figure out a way to try and insulate that ducting that exists outside of the building. I think that's why they don't want to close it off just yet. They're trying to figure out how they're going to do that.
Thank you.
Sure. Just a quick update on the TOD project. Are we calling it Kensington Village at Farmington Avenue? Is that what you're calling it? Farmington Road?
Yes, I think
All
it's
right.
at Farmington Avenue.
Farmington
It's
Road.
not at Farmington.
At Farmington.
No, it
yes,
was at
exactly.
Farmington, which we would be looking for it in
we
Farmington.
won't be saying Farmington. Just that Jim Mahoney and the group, we have submitted submitted an application to DOT for the boulevard and the project. So that's been submitted. So that's moving forward. Of course, we are waiting on response from one of the attorney of the property owners on the appeal that was filed. And it's just still pending. We want to get some traction on that soon. Okay. That's with the project. There's a couple of other good items. The Berlin High School, they are rolling out an internship program, and they are reaching out to the businesses and also reached out to the town. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be part of that program and have young men and women, give them opportunities to get some work experience in the town.
That's great.
Good news is that town doesn't have to pay for it. And we always have, not every department, where we can use some additional help. And they're developing the program. It's about 75 hours of work and could be done in the fall, winter, spring, summer. And the application process has just started. And so we want to be part of the project, and we've introduced it to all the department heads, and a lot of departments have shown an interest to be part of it.
That's great.
So this is the first year we are doing it, and they're reaching out to a lot of the businesses, Eversource and others as well. But
Fantastic.
it'll be good if we can get a few folks in here. Census 2020, we had the initial kickoff meeting. We had a representative from the United States Census Bureau sort of talked about the objective is to how to get the word out, get participation, get more people involved, how to do it, so we done one thing you all have with you. It's a bookmark that the library pretty much saved how easy it is to do it. We had the Board of Ed, Superintendent Brian, he's taken an active role in trying to help us with they already have established email notification systems, automated phone call systems, bi-monthly digital newsletters. So there are other ways we can do it. The group is going to meet again probably by the end of this month or so, and sort of brainstorm on other ideas on how to reach to different people, especially with transient population in the motels and other places, how to capture that. The good news is they shared a map in the state of Connecticut, and it shows where the difficulties would be by precinct or county or town, whatever you want to call it. And Berlin is not one of them. It's New Haven, Hartford, inner cities. It's
Bigger
difficult
cities
to
are harder,
coordinate
to
all
track
those
people
things.
down.
So we are actually in a good zone, which is good. It won't be as challenging, but we have to make every effort to try and get everyone counted. So
Sure.
that's happening. Very quickly, another one, the Timberland Golf Course, we have this problem with the telephone system that Frontier provides. The water's been getting into the conduit, and the telephones have not been working. John's taken a look and reached out to Comcast, and they are already here, and we're switching the telephone system to a completely new one. So, and they have a lot of multiple options with that. It's going to ring in different places and other things that we didn't have before. So that was a problem for some time, so it'll be resolved in a week or so.
Great.
Great.
All right. Couple of other items very quickly. Customer service workshop, I talked about this. It's scheduled February 12th at 9 a.m. to noon at the community center. It's a CCM sponsored event for all towns, but we get an opportunity to get a lot of our folks in there.
Oh, that's good.
To
Nice.
be exposed to how to provide good customer service as a municipal employee. All of us can use a refresher, and I think some of them, I'm asking every department to have at least one representative, but some will have more than one.
Oh, that's good.
So that's already been decided, and announcements will be going out soon. FII, you should have invitations for ribbon cutting. Arby is scheduled on January 10th. That's this Friday at 10 a.m. if you can be there.
10 a.m.
Yep. And Seven Moons, it's another restaurant that's opening up January 29th at 11 a.m. So You should have gotten emails from Chris Edge. If not, send another one.
did.
That's all the fun stuff that's going on in Berlin.
That's great. There's plenty of stuff happening, right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Special committee reports, I don't think we've had any, but, we do need to schedule an ordinance committee, I believe. So, yeah, we can hardly wait for that one. And what do we think we should do?
You want to meet the end of January?
Yeah. Sometime at the end, maybe the last week?
You already have members for that.
As far as the agenda?
No, the people. It's already on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, what do we usually do? Thursday, or what? I forget what we do.
Usually it's a Thursday.
Yeah,
You
okay.
want to do for 6 o'clock?
Yeah, let's do that. I know we have some, I know the golf committee is interested in
Yes.
some, perhaps, changes to the ordinance for them.
What's the date on that?
I don't have a
No,
phone.
last Thursday?
I can email it out to everybody too, because we're going to,
I can
Motion I can work on the agenda.
The 30th, I guess? Be the last Thursday?
The other thing is the veterans, they would like some discussion about maybe increase in their exemptions. So,
Oh, under the tax,
yeah, all right, so that,
Okay.
there's that, and then
Okay.
some of the things I think that you had outstanding.
yes.
So you have,
Because we never finished we never passed that leash law, right? Yeah, we never finished, huh? Okay, we better finish that one. It's been around a long time, yeah, we gotta finish, we gotta move on that one, yeah.
okay, so you do have a few
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Rose is up to date with all the
Okay.
minutes and everything, so definitely we can come together with
Yeah.
an agenda and reach out.
So there's the 30th?
Yeah.
I forget who, I know,
think I am.
you're on it, I think, right?
I was.
Charlie?
Am I still?
I think you, yeah, we went through that list the last time, right?
So I'll put it out to everybody. And I'll include when,
Which one?
Ordinance?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
when a
I
Rose
think Brendan.
finishes, when a Rose approves the agenda.
Yeah.
Then I can send it out to everyone and CC the council members who are not.
Okay.
And that way you guys know what's going on.
Yeah, okay, great.
Tell me where I have to be and where.
All right, so that's is there any other special committees we need to do soon? Do we think of, do we know? No? All right, so we'll start with that one. We'll ease into it with one. Okay, so we got council communications, anything? Anybody has?
No, just, I think we haven't met since Thanksgiving, so we did the Pistol Creek distribution with
Oh, yeah.
Department of Social
Wonderful.
Services,
Yeah, that's
which was
good.
awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. They do a fantastic job. I think, blow me away how much work they do and how many people they reach and distribute to. It's incredible.
Mhm.
I just want to give a shout out to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they did a great job. That's great. Anyone else?
I'm attending that workshop on Saturday, which is nice.
Oh, good.
Mike, you can't go, right? That's okay. See, we can come
Work.
together.
I know. Working guy, sorry.
Okay, anyone else? We good? Okay, so we'll go to our acceptance of minutes. So we do have a,
We do have to make a correction to the minutes. Jen Capola was not at the meeting, it was Jeff. So just
Okay.
to note that Corporation Council.
we're trying to get Jen some credit, and now, well, we gotta give it to Jeff, all right.
Have to, but
Let's be accurate.
you want the minutes to be accurate.
Yes, they should be accurate. I think they should be. I think that's important. All right, so we'll incorporate that change. And we'll go ahead and take a motion.
I move to accept the December 10th meeting of 2019 as amended.
Okay, second on that, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And Mike.
Abstain, that's right. I have to
Couple
abstain.
abstentions.
Abstain.
All right, thanks. Okay, motion carries, thank you. And now we'll go ahead, we're gonna make a motion to move into our executive session.
I'd like to move to executive session for pending litigations
Aye.
under Connecticut General State Statute, Section 1-200, 6B, strategy and negotiations with respect to pending claims or pending litigation.
9 o'clock.
Rio Vista.
Yeah, so,
Inviting in
who are we inviting in? Town manager,
town manager,
corporation counsel,
corporation counsel.
Andrews.
Attorney Anders. Okay. A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so